Tourist Trophy is a motorcycle racing sim from developer Polyphony Digital, who you might recognize from the Gran Turismo series of racing games. Now, this has been described as Gran Turismo with motorcycles, and that's a fairly accurate description, but there are a few key differences. There's more than 120 motorcycles in the game, which is a lot less than the several hundred cars in a Gran Turismo game, but it's still a nice selection of bikes. The bike selection is skewed towards Japanese manufacturers like Honda, Yamaha, and Suzuki, which isn't a bad thing, but if you're planning to ride a Ducati or BMW, you're going to be kind of limited in your selection here. But the bikes all look great, they sound great, and they perform really well. The two main modes in Tourist Trophy are Arcade Mode and Tourist Trophy Mode. In Arcade Mode, you can just go race a single race, do a two-player split-screen race, or you can do time trials. Tourist Trophy Mode is much like a career mode, where you go and pass one of 4 license tests, and then you can start racing. There's 22 race events to start out with, but then you can unlock new ones as you beat the championships. The race events are usually just 3 races. There's a lot of single race events where you just race one race and you get your reward, which is usually a motorcycle or some new gear. There are also championship events, which is a series of races where you get points depending on how you place in each race, and then the person with the most points at the end is the champion. There's no money in Tourist Trophy mode, so unlike Gran Turismo, you don't really have to keep racing races to earn income to buy new vehicles. Here you just complete challenges or complete race events and you get new bikes. But also, since there is no money, you don't really upgrade your bikes. So there's no part upgrades. You can tune your bike based on things like gear ratios, tire compounds, shocks, brakes, and exhaust. Those things can actually have a dramatic effect on the way your bike handles, but you can't just buy some small bike and then throw a bunch of parts into it and have some super machine like you could in Gran Turismo. The best thing about Tourist Trophy is just the bikes. They all look really good. You have all different bikes from back in the 70s on up to the new bikes. Some are custom bikes that were used on the Suzuka 8-hour circuit, and other bikes are just stock factory street bike. They all look really good and they all handle fairly distinctly. In Tourist Trophy, all the races are usually against only up to 4 people. So you can only have 4-person races, which is a far cry from the MotoGP type of games where you have 16 or more riders on the track at once. The AI is also pretty mechanical. They just basically ride the same straight line through the course each time. The only fault really being that they get a little bit too conservative sometimes and take corners slower than they really need to. So it almost feels like each race is more of a time trial than an actual heated race to the finish line. You don't really feel like there's a very stiff competition, but also at the same time, if you are trying to catch somebody, you don't really have a lot of room for errors. Tourist Trophy looks and sounds great. The bikes are all really detailed, and you can look at them really up close and they look excellent. The only problem is that when you're in the behind the handlebars view, sometimes the graphics look a little bit pasted on. It looks a little flaky the way that the rear view mirrors and the handlebars kind of sit on the bottom of the screen and don't really move very naturally. At the same time, the bikes and the courses all look excellent, and you really get to look at the bikes a lot because you get to watch the replays, and there's also photo mode, which came from Gran Turismo 4, where you can watch your replay and take all the best shots and save the photos to your memory card. If you're really into motorcycles, you're going to find a lot to like in Tourist Trophy. But if you come in from Gran Turismo and you're just looking for another sim racing experience in that vein, you'll notice that Tourist Trophy is quite a bit different. Tourist Trophy has fewer bikes and fewer courses, and it's just not quite as involved as Gran Turismo is. That works to its credit, but if you're really looking for that Gran Turismo experience where you can tune every little thing, save up money, buy all these new vehicles, you're not going to find that here. So if you're looking for a motorcycle racing game where you can just get down and race, and there's a wide selection of bikes, this will definitely fill that need for you.
Great!